So it seems like a curious smorgasbord. Scorsese, Stuckman, and the Ninja, Young Thug. There we are. I'm a man of many flavors. Okay, let's get right to it because obviously the Scorsese thing is more interesting in terms of cinematic culture. But that's kind of like what I'm gonna be grappling with is that can we even make any of these distinctions anymore? So Young Thug recently dropped an album. It came out a few weeks ago, garnering a lot of controversy, but also a lot of well, indifference. His usual thing, of course, is money, crime, denying making crimes, and calling people ops with the N word. But you got to give the guy this. He definitely got us all confused or paying attention for a while. So basically, Young Thug is actually very dark skinned, but on the album cover, he's light skinned. And the opening track, Ninja, that attracted a lot of controversy, is, well, it's out there. It's weird. It actually starts off not with music, this very seemingly long, ranting conversation about his various criminal cases. You're thinking, oh, is it just going to be talking? No. Then it becomes a song for a while and then ends off famously now, I guess, with tons of the N word, but with the hard R. Yes, he's literally saying NIG, ER in a hard sense. Now, he's a Southern rapper, so maybe this is like a clever twist. I mean, Nas actually famously was trying to call his album the N hard R word. He was actually going to do it with Hip Hop is Dead. A lot of people don't know that. So, yeah, you can use that uh, seemingly very offensive word for artistic license, but Fontano's review, and again, I will try to give the album a chance myself, but from what I've heard, yeah, his lyricism and rapping is very basic, and apparently this whole production is very uninspired. It's just same old plain old thing, but he just added this track Ninja to really rile people up. Dark skin, black rapper, like I'm got light skin. I'm gonna use that N word with an R. But even this whole thing is like, oh, a black man using very racist terminology. We've had Kanye saying he loves Hitler, so this is not shocking anymore. So I don't know. The album seems to be doing okay, but Fontana was not very impressed. But he's like, yeah, the guy is talented, but he just doesn't have enough talent to do what he's trying to do. Which brings us to Shelby Oaks, which is getting a lot of positive reviews. And that's what I mean by the state of crisis, because, and again, I'm no different. I'm doing YouTube, but I want to work in Hollywood, make tons of money as a director, writer, producer, actor, whatever. And Stuckmann is fulfilling the dream. Now, he's had this for a while. He apparently did some crowdfunding and made his own film. And it is a legit film, professional cast. It's going to get theatrical release. I've not seen it. I've not seen it advertised in my local area. So maybe it's just for the really big markets. So I don't know. And apparently, so far, critics are treating it, fairly generously. Which brings up the obvious dilemma that can these YouTube critics be trusted? Because obviously they're going to say, oh my God, guys, he did it. Stuckman made a genuinely scary, great horror movie. I'm on YouTuber too. I've got a lot of subscribers. Maybe I'll become a famous Hollywood director. But no, I do think, paradoxically, I do actually think this may be a good film. So I've got to see it for myself to make sure. And I do think Stuckman is actually a talented filmmaker. That I would not deny. I think the failure here is as a critic. Like, the guy seems to know the technical terminology, has some understanding of film history, but really he just seems to be a film fan. Loves and hates things passionately, wants to, quote, support the film industry. But really, as a film critic, he's not really interested in criticizing films. I don't think he ever was. So it's one of these paradoxes. He made his name and money being a film critic, but really he's just a very partisan hack. Again, I'm not saying that as an insult. I'm just saying that when you look at his reviews, that's all he does. He's just doing a lot of partisan hackery, but he's made a lot of money, become world famous, and now he's moving on to being a Hollywood director. And to be fair, again, a lot of directors can be very talented as directors, but in terms of judging films or being critical of other films, they're not very good. They're really terrible at it. So it just could be a paradox. He'll be a talented filmmaker, but as a film critic, he's really not worth looking into or exploring at all. Which leads us to Mr. Scorsese, who apparently will have a 5-part documentary series. There's been quite a few of these. One of my favorites was actually a Brian De Palma one. And the format is pretty much almost always identical. We get the director in question, and they will give us their little comments about their filmography as we go through film by film by film, the ups and downs, some anecdotes, and just top it off and saying, "Holy cow, how did we do that? How did we do that with the budget?" But De Palma was actually very interesting and sad because De Palma has been making very few films in the Hollywood system. Apparently, he's been just semi-retired, not through choice. He wants to make films, but it's hard for him as a very creative person. So there you go. But I always feel when we get the big name director doing a retrospective on themselves, it just feels kind of silly. It just feels really silly. So I didn't expect much from Steven Spielberg. I barely remember the documentary. It was very workmanlike. This seems to be a little bit in between. I mean, Scorsese, compared to Kubrick, is way more prolific. I mean, Kubrick always wanted to make more films, but at the end of the day, we have 10 major films, arguably the greatest films of all time. That's quite a record. Scorsese, good or bad, because he's made like 30 films plus? And I've seen the vast majority of them, but I still need to see about three. Um, he's much harder to pigeonhole. He is clearly one of the best directors of the 20th century, still one of the best directors now working, but the actual quality of his films is all over the place. I mean, he's gone through so many eras from the decline of the studio system, the rise of people like Kubrick and himself, the decline of video cassettes. He was there for video cassettes being a thing with VCRs and then that going away for DVDs and now the AI era. So he's been through a lot more Hollywood history than even Kubrick, and it is insane. Again, he's always managed to get some theatrical films, although with The Irishman, as well as, right, The Killer Moon Project, can those really be considered film films? Don't know. We're on a whole new era with filmmakers. Whole new era. And again, I'm not going to be doing even a review of the trailer. It's the obvious highlights: Goodfellas, Last Temptation. We know what we're going to get. We're getting interviews with Leo, Steven Spielberg, Brian De Palma, Kate Blanchett. You know, the obvious stuff. Though I did find it interesting, Spike Lee will also be apparently doing some comments on his various films, and we'll be getting some behind the scenes footage of him as a kid, as a teenager. Obviously, things that were never released, talked about before. But again, I'm literally a for real Scorsese expert. I've read tons of books and articles, seen a whole mess of interviews. So this will probably not be a revelation. I did find it shocking. I did know that the editing of Taxi Driver was a really complicated mess. I even knew that Steven Spielberg participated. He actually made some notes to Scorsese to, oh, you maybe want to do this, do that. I know you think Spielberg? Yeah. Well, again, all those guys hung out back then. Lucas, De Palma, Spielberg, so they were just giving each other advice all the time. But I did not know a certain story though. I did not. I know the editing and him going back and forth to the studio was a big, big fight, but I didn't know that aspect. That he talks about with Rebecca Miller, who's directing this. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that story. So there are still some news stories. If you've read a lot about Scorsese, seen the interviews, there's apparently a few nuggets that you may have missed. So there's that. And again, I have seen all the films. However, I've not gone through all the commentaries he puts to these films because, again, they're a little bit all over the place. I appreciate what he's doing with all these films, like Dune. I know nobody watches that film, but aside from stating the obvious, he just has these central concerns with faith, violence, religion, women, sex, power, corruption, the ability of humans to be violent, but also to be kind. We're just stating the obvious. So it doesn't look like groundbreaking, like, this is a really new critical look. It is him doing a friendly tour of his own films. It's interesting. He apparently just did a documentary too. He did the voiceover for on Powell and Pressburger. So interesting, interesting. Yeah, he's done a few documentaries. The documentaries of his I have not seen. He's done quite a few. One on the New York Review of Books. So he's very prolific. It's ironic that, let me just end this thing though, that people don't know that he actually began with documentaries through Woodstock. And I'll be like, what? Yeah, he was actually at Woodstock doing some documentary work. Apparently, he's just doing work as an editor or something, and that's what he got. He did make a couple of films to get some leeway in the industry. Like those are his very early films, like the Murray film and thing like that. But that didn't really go anywhere. But it was ironically him working on the rock and roll stuff as a documentary filmmaker that he apparently this was his first big professional role, and that set up his other roles to do like Boxcar Bertha, which I've not seen. I mean, that's now famously considered kind of a joke, but I'm not seeing the film. Gotta give it a chance. He did do a few films of his own, but they were kind of universally ignored. The film festival circuit, yeah, he brought it out there, but beyond the professional film critics, nobody saw those films. I mean, I was reading one of the Scorsese books, and I was like, wait, what is he talking about? I mean, I knew about this like Vietnam War short film he did. That was really weird, where a guy's just shaving himself and he's bloody all over the place. It's a very weird little short film. But they were talking about, yeah, what about Murray and Knocking? And I'm like, what are you talking about? So yeah, I mean, if you think you know all Scorsese films, no, no, you don't. I mean, the number now is insane. Is like what he's up to? 35 technically. If you include the documentaries, he's made like 40 plus films. It's an insane canon. It's an insane canon, and this feels like more like a friendly chat going through those 40 films. Probably not going to be all that interesting, but again, I'm willing to learn more, so I'll try to find time for it. It's a five-part series for Apple TV, and it's like getting no attention, although it got 100% of Rotten Tomatoes. No film reviews, though. So I'm like, yeah, that's weird. So we'll wait to see more reviews, but so far it's just the trailers, a few anecdotes, some interviews, and there we are. But it's coming to you, Mr. Scorsese. Is it worth checking out? I will do an analysis of the trailers. It looks interesting enough, but I don't know. It may be a little bit too much ego stroking, even for Scorsese. I like the guy, but sometimes people overrate his work by quite a lot. He's definitely one of the greats, but is he the greatest? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I still think Kubrick wears the crown. To be honest, there.